Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Victory Leaders Lounge. My name is JJ Hardy, and I'm here with Bryan Clayton, and he's going to be my guest today. Real quick, I'll get my small promotion out of the way, and I'm excited because we're going to have an awesome conversation. So Victory Leaders Lounge is brought to you by Victory Leadership Coaching, home of the Warrior Leadership Coaching Certification and First-Time Leaders course for new managers. Don't forget to check us out at victoryleadershipcoaching.com. You can also buy our books at amazon.com. The books are as follows: Why Organizations Should Develop Their Leaders. It's a pocket guide. And Warrior Leadership, the journey from coach to entrepreneur. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe all of our videos on our YouTube channel and our Spotify channel and anywhere else that you see us when we live stream. All right, Bryan, thank you for coming on here today. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great, JJ. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, well, it's great it's great this time of year, especially towards the holidays, to bring on guests. And with your I titled this podcast Not Your Average Entrepreneur, and I have a feeling everybody here is going to learn why I said that once you start telling your story, because it just kind of hit me. And you're just so your background is so broad and dynamic, and you are the epitome of understanding what it means to pivot and do what you got to do to just win. So I look forward to hearing it again and sharing it with my audience. But you want to go ahead and give yourself a quick introduction and maybe tell part of your story?
Yeah, sure. So I'll work from today going backwards. So today I'm co-founder of a company called GreenPal, and GreenPal is a mobile app that works kind of like Instacart or DoorDash or Uber, but for lawn mowing services. So if somebody needs to get their lawn mowed, rather than calling around or, on Facebook or Craigslist or something, they just download GreenPal, pop their address in, somebody comes out and mows the yard for them. And it works like magic. GreenPal is a 12-year overnight success. My two co-founders and I have been at this for a little over a decade, but now it's the nation's largest network of lawn care services you can hire from a smartphone. Anywhere in the country, if you need to get your lawn mowed, you just download the app and make it happen. Before GreenPal, I actually ran a landscaping business. I started mowing grass in high school as a way to make extra cash, and little by little grew that into a real business. Just kind of worked kind of the levels of the video game almost, and eventually got it to about 150 employees, around $10 million a year in sales. And then in 2013, a national company came knocking on my door and bought the business. And so running that business from just me and a push mower to me and 5 employees, 10 employees, ultimately 150, kind of had to learn about leadership along the way, learn about management, do it wrong, develop the scars, and then develop my leadership style, my management style, and see that business all the way through exit. And then so after that, I had to reinvent myself from a blue collar entrepreneur to a tech entrepreneur. But I've spent 23 years in the landscaping business on the blue collar side, now the tech side.
So I love that. And I mean, it just shows that you have the ability to not only scale a business, but sell it, start from scratch in a completely different industry, and then tackle on something new and make that successful as well. But I ask everybody this question. So you said you've been mowing lawns and then you started a business when you were at a very young age. Why a business and not going to work for somebody? I'm just curious.
Yeah, luckily I got super lucky. So my dad got tired of watching me play Super Mario Brothers all day. This was 1995, and I think one of the Super Nintendo had just came out, and so I was just hooked on this thing, playing Super Mario Kart, and he despised it because he was a military guy in the Army. And so I'll never forget it, busted in my room one day and said, "Hey, you got a gig to do. I just talked to the neighbor. They need somebody to mow their yard, and they're going to pay you $20. And I said, "Dad, I don't mow yards." He says, "Well, you do now." And so this wasn't a request, it was a direct order. And so I begrudgingly went with him to the next door neighbor's yard, and we mowed the neighbor's grass, he and I both. And something clicked in my head after we got done, and I got paid $20 for about an hour and a half of work. I thought, wait a second, this makes sense. I can just get more of these and then like put them together and do those all day, and then I don't have to worry about needing enough money to buy the video game I wanted or the soccer cleats I wanted or something like that. So luckily it just clicked for me early on, and I just never even considered anything else. I thought, I'm not terribly good at anything else. I don't get really good grades in school. I barely scored enough on the ACT to get into college. I wasn't like a super bright guy, but I saw business ownership as my lane to propel myself ahead in life. And so I was very lucky to be exposed to that at an early age.
Oh, that's interesting. And I've learned, I have 2 teenage kids myself, and so academia, it doesn't matter whether you're in college or you're in brick and mortar, K-12 or whatever the case may be. It's really designed for a certain type of student, and somebody with an entrepreneurial mindset, somebody who thinks outside of a box, it really doesn't fit in theirs. And so that makes perfect sense that you would maybe not be great there, but when given an opportunity where you can see the reward for your work, you're able to thrive. And by the way, do more and more and more and more. And before you know it, you have 150 people and you're selling it to this nationwide organization. And I'm just curious if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of that journey, because first of all, how did you get big enough for people to even know to look for you, to want to buy it? I mean, it's just interesting how somebody, were you seeking a buyer? Did somebody find you and say, hey, I'd like to buy your company? Or I'm just curious how something like that would even work.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So when you're running a small business like that, ideally you begin with the end in mind, and you work a process where ultimately you want to get the business acquired one day. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you're in the construction business, heating and air business, lawn mowing, like I was in, ideally you set a target and you work backwards, because the way you build a business to be sold is very different than the way you build a business to run a lifestyle off of. And so unfortunately nobody told me this. And so I was just building the business kind of from the heart. I was building it the way I wanted to build it. And there was a lot of mistakes I made along the way that I had to kind of fix on the goal line, so to speak, when it came time for the business to be acquired. And so there's a great book about this called Built to Sell. And what that book talks about is working through a proactive process of building in the systems, building in the standard operating procedures and the things that buyers want to look for. Basically, like closing the gap between your small business and a McDonald's. Like a McDonald's can run on its own anywhere in the world with normal average people, whereas my business required a certain amount of finesse to keep it running together. It required me, and that's not the way you want to run a small business. You want to McDonaldize your business, and so from the moment I made the decision to explore the opportunity to maybe sell it, because there was some consolidation happening in the industry, and I thought, well, maybe a national company might want to acquire my company. From the moment I made that decision to the moment I got a deal done was a little over 2 years, because I started to discover that, okay, wait, I don't have this key account manager. I don't have actually these 2 roles are combined and need to be separated to 2 different people, because that's how these national companies run. And my accounting is all like it's good enough for me, but it's not GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. And so those were all these things I had to do to get the business ready to sell. That cost me time and actually cost me money at the sale, that if I had been working a proactive process, I could have had a smoother, better outcome. So that's one piece of advice I would give. The next piece of advice is a lot of people want to sell their business because they're tired of running it, or maybe it's not making as much money as they want it to make, or they're just exhausted, or they just want out of it. That is not the position in which to try to sell your company. You really got to love it. It's got to be spitting off cash. It's got to be running smooth, and you really don't want to sell it, but you kind of have to get an offer so good you can't refuse it. That's how you want to enter this type of thing. So those are kind of some pieces of advice I would give based on my experience getting a deal done like that.
That's great advice. And I do think that most business owners, some of them would rather have just like a lifestyle, which, it requires them to be a part of it. It requires them to take time off, and the whole business takes time off. But for a real business, one that one day you might want to turn into a legacy or sell to another company or whatever the case may be, I agree with you. Systems and processes are very important, and it needs to run with or without you. And I think that's a great point that a lot of business owners don't necessarily, when they're in the beginning stages and they're struggling to figure out client acquisition and all the crazy stuff, and they forget those systems and processes that are so important, and figuring out how to build their business into segments from the very start. What is it you do from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12? Are they different roles? Are they the same roles? All that stuff would be very important. That way, when you do hire, I have found this through consulting projects, is that when you do hire, now you have an entire role that you can take from those segments that you created and give to somebody else.
Totally.
And people,
exactly. You gotta be proactive about this stuff.
Yeah, people don't realize when they're in the grind just trying to figure it all out at the very beginning that this stuff is very important. And there was a great book about this. It's called The E-Myth, where he talks about all of that stuff. But so you sold the business and then you started another business, and it's completely different, even though it's in the same industry, but it's not, because it's tech. But with both businesses, what would you say would be the number one piece of advice to anybody who's considering starting any type of a business right from the very beginning?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a couple things that go into what we were just talking about. It's okay to run a lifestyle business and keep it small and lean and mean, and then take the low quality revenue that you grind out of the business and invest it in high quality revenue. And so what I mean by that is, I knew a lot of guys in the construction business when I was running my first company that were like blue collar millionaires. These guys ran dump trucks, bulldozers, backhoes. They hung drywall, and they were all millionaires, and they were buying real estate. Like they would go to these auctions for single family homes and bid on them and buy them because they had so much cash from working a small business with only like 3 or 4 employees. And they made themselves independently wealthy in the course of 10 years by just grinding out a super profitable 2 or 3 person business. So that's a path towards financial independence and success that a lot of people don't pursue because they think they have to build this super big company that they can ultimately sell to a bigger business or pass on down to their kids. So there's multiple paths to the finish line. So I want to highlight that. But the second thing is no matter which path you go down, and in the blue collar side, and now I'm in the tech side, there's something that applies to all of these journeys, is that you're going to be doing 3 things at once at all times. So the 3 kind of, and in the E-Myth, he talks about 2 of them. You're going to be working in the business. So like you said, just hustling it together, making sure customers are going to be taken care of, vendors are getting paid, taxes are getting paid, payroll's happening, emails are getting returned. I'm working in the business. And that's where a lot of founders get stuck. The second thing is you have to work on the business. So you're coming in on a Saturday, coming in on a Sunday. What's the one kind of big bottleneck in the business right now? What's the one thing I'm really just kind of beating my head against the wall on? Well, maybe I can't keep employees. So I got to maybe work on a training system where I can, I developed this in my first business. I called it Lawn Care University, where I was able to reduce, it used to take 6 months to train somebody how to be a lawn care technician, and reduce it down to 2 weeks, and just spent a year building the best system for training in that one thing that I could. And so you're working on the business. You're developing the systems, the marketing system, the customer satisfaction system, the accounting and compliance and HR systems. You're just picking one at a time, making them better and better and better. And the third thing that you have to do is you have to work on yourself. Every business faces kind of a bottleneck of what the founder's capabilities are. And so whether it's leadership, management, maybe strategy, maybe your marketing skills, your copywriting skills, your intuition for where the business needs to go, or maybe it's learning from other people who are 3 or 4 levels ahead of the game. You have to groom yourself. You have to work on yourself. So the business doesn't kind of hit this ceiling based on your capabilities, because nobody teaches any of us how to be a founder, how to be a leader, how to be an entrepreneur, how to be a manager. We have to learn these things. Most people don't take the time to learn these things, and so the business kind of suffers as a result. So those 3 things at once, at all times. And in the early days, for me, it was like Monday through Friday was in the business. I'm just trying to hold the business together, making sure it's running. And then Saturday was on the business, the systems, the processes. And then Sunday, maybe Sunday afternoon, was on myself. What is the one thing I suck the most at right now? And I need to shore that up. I'm reading a book. I'm taking an online class. I'm going to a conference or something like that. So, and then as time goes on, you're able to reduce the in the business part to maybe 1 day a week, and then the other higher leverage activities of the rest of the week, as if you keep working that process.
Okay. So in the very beginning, I know what has worked for me, but this isn't about me because I have a wonderful guest on here. But what would you say in the personal development part would be the number one thing that any business owner should learn before they get too deep into running a business?
Yeah, I think a great place, because in the early days, it's all go back to the E-Myth. The one thing Michael Gerber talks about in that book is developing a org chart. Mm-hmm. So you got CEO, head of marketing, head of customer satisfaction, head of product development, head of legal. It is like your name on every single role. Mm-hmm. You got to be good at about 30 different things.
Yep.
Just good enough, dangerous enough. But the one thing that you can develop yourself is sales. If you can learn how to write sales copy, or learn how to craft a value proposition for your business that is better than what the competitors are offering. If you can learn how to develop, if your business is going to require like outbound sales, how to develop that process of prospecting people, reaching out to them, giving them an offer so good they can't refuse, following up and closing that. Developing those skills to make yourself good at sales will kind of build an engine at the core of whatever it is you're doing, because you can always kind of sell your way out of problems. And then one day you're going to have to build a sales team. It's really hard to do that if you've never done sales. So that would be like the first place you can start. And then as time goes on, you're going to notice all of these kind of deficiencies that you have. At least I did, building my first company and now building GreenPal. You realize that you aren't cut out for this sort of thing or this sort of thing. So then you're identifying those and shoring those up. A lot of times the next thing is leadership. Nobody teaches any of us how to be a decent leader. So we kind of have to do it wrong and never get it right, or be proactive about learning what it means to be a leader, what it means to really care about the people working in the trenches with you and where they're trying to get in life and how you can help them get there and how the business fits into that, and really like leadership as servitude and just embracing that, and always knowing that you're going to be like adding more value than you're getting back. And that's just part of it. Nobody teaches us how to do this stuff. So you have to like seek this stuff out, seek this training out. So sales, and then leadership, and then management would be kind of the 3 things where these are not natural skills. You have to develop them, and they kind of fit into that working on yourself kind of bucket.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, my whole business is built on leadership development. And so I obviously agree with that point, but, what is the main difference between starting a service business, in your opinion, and starting a tech business? I'm just curious, because that's I had another guy on here, and I told you about him last time we talked. He was on one of my podcasts, but he told his big difference between the two. But in your opinion, as far as challenges are concerned, the difference between those two industries when it comes to starting from scratch and running a business.
Yeah, each are challenging in their own right, and each have their advantages and are easier than the other in their own aspects. So running a traditional, what I would call blue collar style business, a services business, a very straightforward kind of linear type of business where I'm acquiring equipment and employees, I'm selling services to customers, I'm fulfilling those services, I'm making them happy, I'm keeping those customers, I'm keeping these employees, and then I'm taking a very small margin to keep the business running. That's kind of a linear thing, and you're optimizing, steps along that journey, and you're constantly figuring out, okay, how do I make employees happier? How do I train employees better? How do I make customers happier? How to increase customer retention? Looking for fat in the process to do it at a better cost so my competitors can't compete with me. And it's never ending. And you're always making those things better and better and better. That's challenging because competition's tough, margins are tough, costs to employ people are always going up. So it's always kind of like you got all these circling plates that you're trying to keep spinning, and it's hard in that way. But you do have visibility into, okay, what do customers want? What are my competitors doing? How can I do it better? And what are other companies in other markets doing? How can I learn from them? So you kind of have visibility into what's going on, and you kind of know what you need to do. When you're starting a tech company, most people think the hard piece of that is developing the software and the technical aspects and writing the code, and that is hard. But the thing that's 100 times harder that nobody tells you is that when you're starting a tech business, you're inventing a brand new product from scratch that does not exist in the world. Nobody knows to use it. Nobody knows how to use it. Nobody knows where to look for it. Nobody's ever heard of it. And so now, not only do you have all of the challenges with the first business, where you're trying to figure out how to outserve competitors and solve people's problems with technology, but now you kind of have this problem of if you build it, they will not come.
Right.
You have to connect what it is you've built and the value that you add and the problems you solve with the people that are looking for that solution and distribute it to them. And so what I had to learn the hard way while building GreenPal was that I thought the hard part was the product development, the building of the tech, building of the platform, and then I thought the rest was going to be easy. Actually, it's the inverse. The building of the thing is the easy part. The hard part is distributing it and getting the word out about it, and having it be where people are looking when they're trying to solve the problem that you can solve for them. And so that's the hardest part about a tech product. There are easier things though. Once you solve, like when in my landscaping business, a big problem was employee turnover and just training people and just constantly keeping new employees in the system. Well, with a tech company, most of the time when you face a problem, you can write code to solve that problem one time and never have to solve it again. So that's kind of one of the nice things about it, is that when you solve problems in a technology business, most of the time you can solve them at the root cause and not have to deal with them anymore. So that's one of the things that makes it easier. But the harder thing is inventing something from scratch that nobody knows about. That's challenging to get awareness around it.
I would say the same thing about coaching, actually, because even though it's discussed, even though it's everyone knows that training and coaching exists, what makes you as a little guy, not just me, but a bunch of people in my network, and we all run into the same issue. What makes you different than your competitors? Why would I pay you, the little guy, and even if it's less, rather than paying this well-established company over here that I know has been serving a lot of my fellow businesses in my industry for such and such amount of years? And so I would imagine it, even though there might not be another GreenPal, there might be something similar that you probably had to really explain your way into it, because for a while there you were selling yourself. You probably weren't even selling GreenPal. You were like, hey, I just want to work with you. We should work together. I mean, we gotta buddy up here and get to know each other a little bit, so that maybe one day you'll be interested in my product.
Yeah, exactly. You just nailed it. The when you're first getting started, I think the first 100 sales, maybe even the first 1,000 sales, have to be what I would call belly to belly, hand to hand combat, hand cranking them. So you then know what your value proposition is, and then you can identify what you're doing better than the alternatives, and then you can build a process around that. Most founders just want to go right to the process. They don't really understand and identify what it is they're doing better or different than competitors, and so it's like trying to push a rope up a mountain. It's like you don't really know what to like put gas, what to put like fuel behind, because you don't know what you do better than your competitors, because you haven't had to go into the trenches to make those sales. So you're exactly right. The first 500 lawn care services that use GreenPal all had my cell phone number, and they would call me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with questions and issues and advice about how to run a lawn care business. But that was just what was required at that stage of the game to get to the next level.
Yeah. Yep. And we have just a few minutes left here. We talked about a lot of different topics in the business world here. What's one thing that so I have a lot of HR people, a lot of military people that separated from the military, and they're kind of fresh into the civilian workforce. And I also have people that, they're in operations and, just people in businesses in my network. So what's one piece of advice to any of those people? And a lot of entrepreneurs as well, obviously. But what's one piece of advice that you would give anybody in that audience? Just one thing, one golden nugget, if you will.
Yeah, I think a piece of advice that I like, that I try to hold myself accountable to follow, is a piece of advice by a guy named Paul Graham, and he says action produces information. And so what he means by that is, a lot of times when we're in big businesses, or even if it's just us in a windowless office, we get like paralysis because we don't know what a given initiative is going to do and what result it's going to produce. And so therefore we're like, well, I don't really know if it's a good idea to try that or not. And I don't know if it's a good idea to set off and implement that or not, because I don't know what the outcome is going to be. And so then we end up doing nothing. And that's the worst thing that can happen. If you can like always remind yourself that action produces information. So you say, okay, I don't know if this is a good idea or not. I don't know if implementing like this new SaaS system for customer satisfaction is a good idea or not. But we're going to try it for 2 weeks, and we're just going to see. And then we're going to gather the information that comes from that experiment, and then reevaluate what the next moves are. Well, I guarantee you one thing's going to happen is you're going to know more at the end of that week or two than you know today. You may not have like a positive success, but you're going to know more, and then you're going to be that much closer to the result you're looking for. It's kind of like you have to be patient with the results and impatient with the actions. So be patient with the results of your hard work, but impatient with the inputs. And that's hard to do because a lot of times we don't want to waste time doing things. We don't want to like spend a bunch of money and not have a positive outcome. But if you can just think about, okay, how do I reduce this to the smallest amount of action, get some information, reevaluate, then take my next move.
Yeah, that as a matter of fact, that's what. So last week I was talking to one of my good buddies, and he says, "You're always saying success loves speed." He said, "You got to put that on your board behind you and let everybody see it." And that's exactly why. That's exactly why I say it, though, because a lot of people get stuck in this analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
And you are never going to know how to make your SOP or how to get to the next step in your business, or even when you're working in a business for somebody else, what's going right or what's going wrong if you never take action. If you're constantly sitting on stuff, nothing is ever going to happen. If you don't take that first step, you're never going to know.
Exactly. And reduce the expectations around just getting some information.
Yep.
That's it. And don't even worry about if it's going to work or not. I just want to get some information. And if you can like shift your mindset around that, well, then next thing you know, you do that for 2 or 3 years, you're in a whole different world. Now you've got some momentum. You've got more resources to make bigger bets. The problem is that if you come at these sorts of things with like a big company employee mindset, it's a little harder to think that way because big companies don't like to do that. But if you are like in a small team inside of a big company, or if you're a founder, an entrepreneur, you're a solo founder, that's your secret weapon.
I agree. You never know until you try.
That's right.
And the fact that you brought up reevaluating on a regular basis to figure out what's going right and what's going wrong. Military, we call that an AAR. What you should sustain, what you should improve, and you kind of put things in chunks, and then don't wait to get a ton of information. If something's not working, move on and take action somewhere else. And
exactly right.
And you testing it. And anyway, you hit the nail right on the head. Yeah. Man after my own heart with that kind of saying. I absolutely love that sort of thing. So
success loves speed. I like that.
Success loves speed. Follow me, let's go. That's what I always say. But no, Bryan, I really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you very much. And anyone who watches this in the future, maybe it's a time of day, but we didn't get much of an audience today, but that's fine because within a couple of hours, everyone always starts watching. And so this will be out here probably on Spotify. If anybody's watching this, if you like to listen to Spotify, should be out towards the end of January. That's just kind of how far backed up on episodes I am. I put them out once a week, every Wednesday in the morning. But if you're on social media right now, before it gets taken down, please like wherever you see this, whether it's YouTube or wherever the case. Subscribe to it if you're on my YouTube channel for sure. But most important thing is to put a comment below, because while we're here, we can keep the conversation going and answer any questions you have, because we kind of put out a lot of nuggets of information when it comes to entrepreneurship out here today. And that's the end of the episode. Bryan, I appreciate you. And audience, I look forward to seeing y'all next time.